Well, hey y'all, happy Monday. So we are so super lucky that we've got a couple of days this week. Well, really this week is like our little safety zone before, you know, the triple digits come back, because we are even gonna have a couple of 80-degree days this week. So this week is kind of our last week to really do whatever we can to secure our garden from the heat. And so that brings up a sorry about that plant. That brings up a topic that I want to share with you today, something that I'm a little fascinated with, and that's soil temperatures. For years I've used certain kind of containers, and now after running some experiments with soil temperatures, I don't think that this container is going to be a part of my repertoire anymore. Then we're going to take a little tour of the garden. So I'm not one of those people that's super all about the gadgets, but when it comes to the garden, I kind of am. And I actually, to be honest, I'd wanted one of these a while back, and I can't for the life of me remember what exactly I wanted it for. But as I've made different moves in the yard, and I'm trying different things, and I'm trying my best to keep things as cool as possible, it made me very, very curious about soil temperatures. So I got myself one of these handy dandy infrared temperature gauges to help me out with what the temperature is in the different containers that I've got in the yard. So I can't wait to run around and show you. And we're also going to run an experiment based on a theory that I've had that might improve the situation for the hottest thing in my yard. Can you guess what it is? Let's go find out. This is just some cheapy brand, and I'm not sponsored by them. It was less than 20 bucks. You just have to like click on the I guess the ground's 128. So you just click this on, or you can hold it and you can like pan the area. Right now it's 91 degrees, and it's like, I don't know, it's 12. So we're gonna start with this black bag right here, and it is 89 degrees. Now let's go to this black bucket, and it is 101. Now let's check out the okra bucket. The okra bucket is 110 degrees. Now let's check out the wall. Is like 101. But then when we go to the wall out here, the wall is like 114. So that tells us that by using this shade cloth, that we're bringing the temperature of the wall down like almost, you know, over 10 degrees. And if we look at our lavenders, 87, that one's 80. Now, if I look at my bed, 79 degrees in the shade. I check out this bale, it is 86 degrees in the shade. And even the hottest part of the bale, which gets sunlight right here on the corner, is about 94 degrees. We used to have a drapery business, so I've got a lot of blackout, which is a material that we used to use to line draperies so that it would block out heat, block out cold, block out the sun, block out changes in temperature, and protect furniture. So that's what we used it for in the drapery business, and we use it for all kinds of things around the house now. But I've cut up some pieces of blackout, and I'm going to attach them to these buckets, because ultimately the buckets are what are the hottest things in my yard, and we've kind of deduced that it's probably because they don't breathe at all. Here is one solution that I'm testing. Like I said, this is my blackout tied around, covering up almost everything except for the rim. My second phase is where I'm covering up everything, and then almost all the surface of the soil as well. And so I've got this, and then I think I'm going to show you here in a second that a woman I'm following in Las Vegas is doing. But I'm going to have to update you next week, and I'm going to track and see what the temperatures are like for these 2 buckets. But I'm quite certain that this is going to be really effective. And I bet you that this one starts to jump off growing because of that reflective light underneath there. They're already kind of different heights now, but I know that's going to take that's going to play a role in it. And like I said, so I'm going to track these temperatures and see how effective this is. Okay, so one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to bring this information to you is because for me personally, I've used buckets for so long and felt like I was doing all the right things. People kept telling me that my roots were going to be frying, that the soil was going to get too hot. I never would listen, and now I found that the proof is in the pudding. So I'm trying out the blackout. There's the option that I talked to you about, my friend in Vegas uses. But I'd like you to look at this chart here, and it kind of shows you that most of the things that we're able to plant right now in Arizona, like the corn, cucumbers, the cantaloupe, the squash, the watermelon, the reason why those things do okay right now is because they've got that maximum temperature over there of like 105 degrees in the soil. So that's why, even though I'm using the okra as an experiment, it's just because they're in the buckets, because the okra can handle temperatures up to 110 and really just not care. Now I moved it away from that fence because I don't want to take any chances. I want all of my okra plants to do awesome and give me lots of okra. But if you are doing everything right, but you're using buckets or you're using some type of container, your watering's right, your nutrients are right, your shade is right, your sun is right, then it might be time to look at your soil temperature, either using a meat thermometer or a laser thermometer, and maybe employ some of the tricks that I'm using in terms of watering in the morning for a little bit, watering in the evening for a little bit, maybe using some white contact paper, a white sheet, some blackout, something that's going to push off those light rays, and maybe something to cover your soil like a mulch or some type of straw or leaves from your other plants. Those are all ways that you can cool down your containers, as well as trying that little tip that I showed you from my friend in Vegas. So I hope you've enjoyed this little segment on soil temperature, and I just like learning everything about the garden, and I love researching and digging into information so that we both can learn and grow together. Finally getting to where you can see something over the tops of these bags, and that's pretty fun. Looks like this loofah is finally ready to go somewhere, so that's pretty fun. Maybe we'll get some producing before it gets too cold, because it's definitely one of those long season crops. And kind of the same thing over here, finally getting some lift off on these plants, so hopefully we'll get some action on this big trellis here for too long. We'll just take a peek at the strawberries down the tunnel instead of lifting it all out, but everything in there looks really happy, and they're getting their big drink of the week right now. And I did go in there and top that all out with finished compost this week, because it hadn't had really any new stuff since it was first done. And this week we had a big show out with this bee balm, and they've kind of been over here growing for some time, but they just now starting to flower. And this is supposed to be also kind of in the bergamot family, but the only thing I like about it right now is how it looks. And this is how it looks before it sprouts, and then the flowers are going to come out of there and up there, and so it's really pretty, but for my taste it's kind of a little too spicy. So I got rid of the tomato that was there, just because I'm kind of thinking about sticking a sweet potato in there, and this thing right here keeps wanting to grow, so I'm just gonna let it wind up that little swirly thing right there that I've kind of got anchored just for the sake of wind against the trellis. And then I moved some stuff from here. this basil that I had up on my patio was never happy, and now it's just going crazy, whereas now my mint looks like it is done with life. So maybe I need to move the mint, but everything else over here is seeming to be kind of happy. You know from the topic of this video kind of what's going on with where the okra is at, but the okra is getting huge and it's getting happy, and there's kind of, the girls have got their own little plants going over here. One's a cantaloupe and one's an Armenian cucumber, so that's just something for them to do. A little bit more blooming left on the calendula. Here's a couple more buckets of okra. We moved these lettuces over here because they just couldn't stand that direct sunlight during the day. So over here, you know, after like 11 or so, they get shade along with everything in this kiddie pool. So these tomato plants are just completely wild, obviously, and the sweet potato is happy. And you know, we kind of look at anything like the lettuces, which are kind of going to bolt back there, and the tomatoes is kind of a coverage for keeping the soil cool for the sweet potatoes to grow in. And this one is really going gangbusters too, but so far the peppers don't really have much of a flavor, and but we'll just let it keep doing its thing. The tomatoes, everything got fertilized this week. So look at that celebrity. It's just got lots and lots of tomatoes. Now, if they'll get bigger than that, I'll be happy. But all the tomatoes are feeling really good about life. This is the one that was this the sun gold? Yeah, this is the sun gold. So this was the one that looked the worst. It was only about that tall. And I cut all the fruit off of it. I cut all the bad spots of it. And now it's like at least a good 12 inches taller than it was. And that's the cool thing about almost everything in here that had a rejuvenation, is that it's jumped back up. Now, I learned a big lesson from my lavender, because I'd read this article about how lavender doesn't really like to be messed with that much. It doesn't like to be watered that much. And I was kind of giving it a sprinkle every day. So I stopped what I was doing, and it didn't like it. But I realized that it didn't like it before it became bad. And so my big takeaway from that is, if you've been doing something with a plant for a certain amount of time, just keep doing that. So other than that, I brought it over to the shade along with the oregano. And even though the oregano is flowering, it's a lot happier over here in the shade with the tomatoes that are all looking super, super happy. Here are our other 4 okras. These are further along. These are the last 2 that got seeded, so they're a little bit slower to the game. And this is the kiddie pool that has got the not so great dirt in it, and these are silly tomatoes that have come up on their own, and we don't water this. Every now and then they get a little bit of overspray from me giving the okra a drink, but this is otherwise just Mother Nature doing better than me, trying to show me out over here. The bales are just going crazy. They're having a big time. There's a lot of females down here, but I don't know if they're really getting the true pollination, even though there's tons of bees in here. So I'm happy with this. I'm just ready to see, you know, more females come into fruition. And this is where the blue Hubbard's at, and you can see from over here that I've got a pumpkin that's going all the way up here to here, and now it's about right here. So there's a lot of things making their way to the trellis and really doing well. And our raised bed is happy too. Whoa, look at this. I don't even know where it's going, but I don't have gloves on right now. All the beans are happy, and they actually trellis all the way up and over to the middle of the trellis. You can kind of see through the shade cloth. Now, I lifted this shade cloth up and over this way because in the warmer days, we're making it where the shade cloth was laying on the leaves, and they just seemed like it was almost like they're getting a lot of sun, even though they weren't. So I lifted them up, and now we've kind of got surround tunnels. This bean, my beans, I'm having the best success with them right now. This is a green bean. I've never gotten a green bean to look like this or to grow like this. So fingers crossed that we get some beans out of here. I'm going to pick this. I think that one and the one I just showed you are about ready. This blue Hubbard goes all the way across there, up here, and all the way up to here. And I really don't know what I'm going to do with it right now. So I'm just letting it do its own thing. And in the midst of the blue Hubbard, there's a bunch of beans. I think these are the Anazi beans that have latched on and are having their time. And the tomatillas, that's a tomatilla. Okay, this is a tomatilla. So they have just really branched out wildly, like they probably need some kind of trellis. But you know, that's the reason why I put these lettuces down here, so that they would completely get shaded out by the tomatillas. And a little bit is happening with this squash that's right here. But right now we're just kind of letting everything fill out as lush as it wants to. These are my two jungles over there and over here, and just see what happens. And you can see at the top how tall everybody's getting. And I'm letting these finish out their seeds because I want to collect them, and then we're looking forward to all these flowers coming in here. So there's our little tour. Well, I hope you had fun running around the yard with me and testing out different temperatures. And I hope that it gave you some insight about the different temperature zones in your yard, the different temperatures of soil in your different containers, and what are some things that maybe you can do to kind of bring the temperatures down, shift some things around in your yard, do some cooling activities for your yard. I hope you're having a great day. I hope you enjoy this San Diego type of week that we're gonna have here in the valley as we batten down the hatches to go into Memorial Day and triple-digit temperatures. Gotta have a great attitude about it. Well, I hope you're having a great day, and I look forward to chatting with you next time. And until then,